Hello and welcome to the RIMU Marketing Small Business Growth webinar. Today we're going to be looking at marketing transformation in a changing landscape. It's one of the first of our Small Business Growth webinars and it's in celebration of our 8th business birthday. We're going to be covering quite a number of different points in our session today, but before we do that, I'd first of all like to introduce RIMU Marketing to you. RIMU Marketing was set up in April 2014 to help ambitious small business owners to develop, grow and flourish. Through focusing on successful results-driven marketing solutions, we can help the small business owner to build and achieve their business ambition. RIMU Marketing has enjoyed working with a diverse number of different inspirational small businesses, which include creative, wellness, charity, sport, travel, leisure, and hospitality businesses. Think of us as your virtual marketing team. We are a team of associates dedicated to helping you on your business journey, from setting your business strategy, your marketing strategy, building your website, content creation, email marketing, and pretty much everything in between. So as we go through the session today, what I'd like you to have a think about is what is your biggest marketing challenge for the next 12 months? And what kind of things do I need to do to put in place to help and resolve and overcome those challenges? Before we move on to the main part of the webinar, I'd like to share with you a definition of marketing, which I love. And that's from Keith Weed, the CMO from Unilever, and he defines marketing as the fusion of logic and magic. And I love that because it really encompasses the idea that there is a process behind what we do when we're building our marketing activity, but also there's that little bit of magic, there's the passion as a small business owner that comes through when you're communicating with your target audience. So what are we going to cover in our session today? We're going to have a look at 5 key points. And these questions really have been defined by you as the small business owner. As we do most years, we set up an annual survey which engages with our small business owner audience and tries to understand the challenges that they're facing in the year ahead. So what the small business owner community told us this year was that they want to know what's happening in the industry, so what's on the horizon. And we're going to be looking at some perhaps more macro trends rather than just specifically marketing. But they are all going to tie back and they're all going to relate and impact what we're doing within the marketing parts of our business. How do we find new clients? This is a really hot topic behind a lot of the challenges that my clients face and a conversation that I have with many small business owners on a regular basis. Unfortunately, there isn't a really easy solution or answer to this. But what I will do is I will share some things to have a think about to help get you started in today's session. Streamline your time for marketing. Another great challenge that many of the small business owners let us know they were facing was really around when they have their own business, they love doing what they're doing. So whether they're a florist, whether they're a personal trainer, whether they help to train people on how to eat more healthily, whatever it is that they do, they love what they do. They don't necessarily want to have to focus on working to drive to attend. They just want to deliver their product or service. So what I wanted to do today was to share with you some marketing hints and tips and tools to help get you started. Content underpins all of our marketing in today's busy digital workplace. And also that's another great challenge that many of small business owners are facing. It's really, where do I find the content? How do I know what to share? And so we're going to share some ideas and hints and tips for you to help you get started. And then during the live session itself, we also then wrapped up with some questions and answers. So let's start with the first part of the webinar. What's new on the horizon for the next 12 months? Well, there's no doubt that the last 2 years have been somewhat discombobulated. They've all been kind of topsy-turvy. Everything has changed. The perception of how we work has changed. But there's some really key trends that I'm starting to see coming out. The first of which is how do we work now? I think as small business owners, we've been very lucky that there has also always been a very strong element of flexibility. In fact, that's often been a big draw for people wanting to set up their own business, establish their own small organisation. But this idea of hybrid way of working is really coming into the corporate workplace, which actually I think is really refreshing to see. But what it does mean is that there is also then quite an impact on the way in which we choose to connect with our audiences. So just to give a really small example, if our audience is a corporate audience, so maybe I'm a coach or maybe I'm a yoga instructor that wants to go in and help an organisation to build on their wellbeing strategy, to connect with that corporate audience, the way in which they work and they go about their day and their working week has changed. So what we're seeing is that there's a lot fewer people who get up really early in the morning, travel into the workplace to get to their office desk for 9 o'clock. And then the reverse on the other end of the day. So the times that typically is potentially quite dead time, when you might be sat on a train or hopefully not sat in your car, but maybe on a bus or on your way to work, and you might be looking at social media, that trend is no longer happening. So as a small business owner, if you want to target that audience, you might typically have posted between sort of 8 and 9 o'clock to connect with that audience whilst they're kind of scrolling through social media on their way to work. But obviously now those trends are changing. People might be out walking the dog or doing different things at that time before they then get to their desk in the morning. Technology is definitely changing the way that we work. So doing things like this, for example, connecting with people and having meetings on Teams or virtually in Zoom is really changing the way that we connect with people, allowing us to become more time efficient. The other key trend that I'm seeing is this idea of a great resignation. Over the last 2 years with COVID, it's given us the time to really, as a nation and as a community, really give us the time to think about actually what's important to me. What are my brand values? Does the business I work for, do they align with my values? And actually, what do I want to do moving forward? Am I happy? And with all of this in mind, there was a really interesting study by CV Library towards the end of 2021. And in that, they saw that 3 in 4 people were considering their next role or changing jobs or even setting up their own small business. That's going to have a massive impact. So that kind of churn of people on the move, or certainly from a small business perspective, having more people coming into that space and landscape is going to have a massive change and difference. Depending upon your business, that could be a good thing. But it's always good to be aware of what your competition are doing. So the next thing that I want to think about is great customer experience. And this really has always been, I think, part of a great business model. If you put the customer at the heart of your business, so whether that's defining what they want, understanding the challenges that they face, it better enables you to provide a product or service which meets their needs. So from a marketing perspective, thinking about, so once you define your customer, once you know who your target audience is, you can then reflect that in the questions that you answer via the content that you share, the images that you use across your website and your marketing channels, and also your media selection. So a really easy example of that is if you want to connect with a family audience, there's some great magazines like Families Magazine as a media outlet that you might consider connecting with. The images on your website are going to be reflective of families, hopefully happy families as a result of engaging with your product or service. And the content that you share is also going to be answering the challenges which they face. Not forgetting to also think about how you build and automate your experience to provide good customer service. So for example, if you're an online shop or an online store of some description, setting up email automation to provide the best customer experience can really make a difference. Things like having end of cart emails. So for example, if somebody goes onto a website, chooses some products to purchase, but then doesn't complete the purchase, generating and prompting and reminding that customer to come back and see you again can often be not only fruitful for the business owner, but also can be helpful to the individual client. So whilst we are able, through digital tools, able to define and kind of create a consistency with our customer journey, it's also really important to remember that we're all individual, and actually many of us want to seek to have a personalised experience where we feel special. And that's never been more true, I don't think, than if you go into the store now, you have that person working in there who comes up to you, they're really attentive, they're inquiring how they can help, what the challenge is, and then helping you to find whatever it is that you need. That kind of customer service is really valuable and one that you'll tell your friends all about. But on the flip side, if you've got a consultant or somebody that's working in a store and they're not really that bothered about engaging with you, too busy looking on their phone, it's not going to create the right experience either. So providing that personal touch via our marketing is also really, really important. The environment. So point number 3, the environment in a brand CSR policy is also becoming increasingly important when we make decisions as to which brand we're going to purchase a product or service from. I think with the COP Environmental Summit in Glasgow at the end of 2021, People are much more aware about the impact of business on the environment, and they want to try and make a change where they're able to. They want to support or work with a business which has a good sustainability policy. Perhaps their recycling policy is really good. Perhaps they do a lot for charity. So it's going to help and this can be relevant for business of all size. It's going to help your customers to choose you as opposed to perhaps one of your competitors. People are voting with their wallets, and taking care of clients, employees, and common causes is also going to be an increasingly important consideration of fact for many customers. Video marketing we've seen over really over the last few years is a massive trend, and one which is going to continue to grow, with 89% of global marketeers planning to invest in short-form video in 2022. That's a huge percentage of people bringing video into their content, and video is something that we will talk about later on. So when you're starting to think about what kind of content do I want to share to my audience, actually making sure video is part of the mix is going to be really important. And we can see the importance of that by just simply the ways that perhaps social media channels, for example, are changing. So you've got Instagram Reels, you've got Lives in Facebook. The algorithms are proactively serving videos as content in advance of the written word and just perhaps static imagery. So it's definitely something to watch. I know video is definitely something that a lot of my clients find quite difficult. It certainly requires a lot of time to plan, to think about what you're going to say, to get yourself set up, and really make it so that it looks professional. But with technology, the way that it is with phones, that's becoming easier and easier every day. So what's new on the horizon for the next 12 months? We've covered quite a lot already. I'm only really scratching the surface for a lot of these things. Mental well-being continues to be a challenge for us. Without doubt, many have struggled over the last 2 years. And it's thinking about businesses of all sizes, not just large corporations. What are they doing to help support their employees? How are they helping them and making sure that they are well, they're fit, they're happy, they're healthy, and of course productive in achieving what the business is trying to work towards. As we mentioned, content continues to be king. It continues to be an important part of the way we communicate and engage with our customers. And I think for small business owner, that's going to become even more important. With 47% of customers engaging with 3 to 5 pieces of content before they engage or buy a product or service from a brand is huge. So what that means is that as an individual consumer, I would maybe want to see a radio ad from a brand. I might want to see a TV program. I might want to receive an email, or I might see a post on social media. What that brand is doing is connecting with me in multiple ways. Now, as a small business owner, we might not have the budgets available to perhaps do TV advertising, but thinking about your marketing mix, being consistent in the way that you're communicating with your audience, not just in messaging, but also in a timely fashion as well, is going to be really important. And blog writing is absolutely something which is here to stay. What we'll also see later on is that writing a blog can also help us to be more time efficient as well. So it has added bonuses as well. So I've taken some time to look at what is on the horizon for the next 12 months. And I'd say that there's lots changing out there, and there's lots that I haven't covered today as well. The next big question that I want to answer is how to find new clients. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this isn't a quick answer to this. Actually, there's a lot that we need to consider as part of this process. What I want to just share with you today, though, is to think about 3 important questions. When you start to answer these questions, actually the other bits start to take shape and they start to become easier to understand. So the first question in how you find new clients is, what am I trying to do? What does success look like? And I don't mean, oh, I want more clients. It's actually, how do we start to get specific with some of these things? Who do I wish to speak to? So who's my target audience? How do I know if my marketing has been successful? And this is a critical point which often many forget to focus on. Don't forget that research can help you gain some clarity on some of the above questions. And doing a little and often with marketing is really where you start to see the success. So there's very little value in doing a whole lot of stuff for 2 weeks. So you might post every day, you might share a blog every day, you might send an email once a week. There's no point doing that for 2 weeks and then nothing for 6. Actually, what's far more effective is to have all of these pieces of activity working together and to spread them out. So to do, an email a month, post 3 or 4 times a week in social media, depending upon the channel, and the usage, of course, also needs to be taken into consideration. But doing little and often is really important. So the first point and the first question to answer is, what am I trying to do? And as I mentioned earlier, it's not just about saying, I need new clients. Actually, it's starting to think about maybe taking 5 or 6 things to focus on, and it's making them smart business objectives. So being specific, measured, achievable, relevant, and timed. For some reason, I always have to count on my fingers. So an example of that would be, I want to gain 5 new clients that I work with ongoing, that I do some work for every month, and I want to increase my revenue by X amount per month over, by December of 2022. So what you're doing there is you're making it really targeted, really specific to be able to quantify in December 2022, was I successful? Now, actually, when you start to build these sort of plans, I hope it's not something that you literally use for 12 months and revisit, but actually something that becomes a living and breathing document, that it helps you focus all of your marketing activity to work towards achieving those goals. So, for example, some of my clients are very happy with the level of business that they have, but they want to build their authority or their profile within their particular sector. So then their objectives become different. Instead of trying to drive inquiries or discovery calls for clients, it might be that they want to write some editorial, or they might want to do different pieces of activity to help achieve that. Being aware of what your competitors are doing is really useful, but I always encourage my clients to be really clear on their journey and their path, and then perhaps look in the wider space at what the competitor is doing. And also think about the product or service that is something that your audience wants, and just really then kind of honing and refining that proposition to make sure that it's a proposition that your target audience will want to purchase from you. So who do I wish to speak to? This is another core piece of information that I would suggest not just sits under marketing, it's absolutely the golden nugget for marketing, but actually underpins all of the business. So once you know who your target audience is, you can then tailor your content, your products, and your service accordingly. So a couple of things you might like to think about. So what's their demographic? So what age are they? Are they male? Are they female? Do they have a family? Where do they live? That sort of kind of demographic basic information. Then what you need to start to think about is, what problems do you solve for them? Because then when you understand what problems you solve for them, you understand how you can help them, and then what products or services you offer to fulfill that need. Understanding what their dreams and aspirations are, this can give us content ideas as to how to connect with them, or what it is ultimately that they're working towards, what the challenges are that they face. This all feeds into the same place. What media do they read? So again, that can help with the media selection. So if, for example, to use the example we shared earlier, if you're wanting to connect with a family audience, they may read Families magazine, in which case that might be a good place for you to either feature an editorial, so an article, or you might want to do some advertising within that space. And then what else do you know about them? So do they have a dog? Do they like playing tennis? Do they play netball? Do they play football? What are their hobbies? And that also gives us other ways in which we can connect with our target audience. You'll see within a lot of the marketing space that awareness days are a big part of what people share within social media. And the reason for that is that it's a way that we can connect with our audience, we can resonate with them. So we had National Tea Day, I think, quite recently. And that's a great example. If you're a tea drinker, what a great way to connect on a very small level with your potential audience. Once you've visualized who so you sat down, you've brainstormed, you think you know who your target audience is, you might also create a collage of images to represent them as well. The next thing is to perhaps conduct some research, just really to understand if your kind of visualization of who you think they are is correct. And that could be via interviews, it could be via a survey, or just an informal conversation that you have with your target audience. There's actually another slide that probably should sit in here, and that is to think about your content, your creative, and your media selection. So once you know what you're trying to do, who you're talking to then start to think about those things is then a really big consideration step. Unfortunately, due to time limitations today, we're not able to cover that in detail, but definitely I would encourage you at this stage to also consider how you're going to start to talk to your audience and what the messaging is around that. Once you've implemented your marketing, it's then about thinking and understanding if your marketing activity has been successful. So to continually track and monitor success enables you to revise things and change things in response to how your audience are reacting. Do more of what is working and stop or change or tweak what is not working so well. There's many ways we can judge performance, and obviously we will be putting those KPIs, the key performance indicators, in the objectives at the beginning of our journey when we're starting to think about this. But we could use visitor figures, we could use social media engagement, email marketing, open and click-through rates, sales, number of clients, or general feedback. So depending upon what your objectives are, there's lots of ways in which we can assess if something has been successful. So we've looked at what's happening in the next 12 months. We've looked at or started to consider how we might start to source more clients. And as I said, there's a lot more work we could do around that. This is just really the base of the iceberg today. Time-saving tips. Start by writing a strategy and a plan. For those of you who follow me and know me well, you'll know that I talk about that a lot. But until you know what direction you're going in, you can't understand if it's been successful or not. Know your target audience. We've covered that and touched on that already. Outsource and gain support where you can. So you're very quickly, as a small business owner, going to reach your capacity. When you've kind of reached your capacity, it's then say, okay, well, how can I get somebody else to help me? So for myself, it was always I wanted to employ an accountant. So it was, okay, how do I support asking an accountant to submit my taxes and help me with that part of the business where I know is not my area of strength? Use time management tools. So a couple of great ones are Trello, Asana, Monday.com. There's hundreds out there, but they're just some really good ones that we found on our business journey. Build your organic marketing channels. So we've talked a lot about social media, email marketing, blog writing. Get all of those channels working really well. Build them up, grow them, so you're increasing your audience size, and then you can take it from there. Use your diary to block out time for specific tasks that you want to cover. So if you've got particular projects you need to work on or things that you need to do, just make sure you allow time to really focus on those key projects. Use social media scheduling tools. So I've listed just a couple there. I really like Social Pilot. It's really simple to use. But just doing your batch preparation, so focusing on 1 or 2 social media channels, batch create and schedule your content can really help from a time-saving perspective. So, for example, if you share inspirational quotes on a Monday, for example, build them for 2 months, and then that way you can schedule them all in, and you haven't got to keep going back each month, each week, dipping in and out. Repurpose your content, so use blog articles and then break them down for social media posts, and try and limit the time on social media, because I know it's so easy. I know it myself. I go into Facebook, I think, I'll just comment on that, or I'll just share that, and then there I am before I know it, half an hour later. And I've gone off at a complete tangent. So maybe even some people put a timer on or something to remind them. And then set up email templates and automations. So tools like MailChimp or MailerLite are really useful in helping you to create, to be time saving, so that if you've got a particular way you like your email to look, create a template, and then you can just use it and update it each month as you're going along. So the fourth point I wanted to cover today was around content ideas and brainstorming. And I've listed here just a couple of ideas and things that you can share. So we talked about videos, we've looked at articles, so news articles, create competitions, checklists, workshops, white papers, blogs, promotions, top tips, surveys, podcasts, the list goes on. There's content everywhere. The key is to understand your audience, to understand the challenges that they face, and actually, why not ask them, say to your customers or your clients, what's the biggest challenge that you have right now? How can I help you, and answer those questions, because they're the ones that are going to get the best engagement within your social media channels. So I really wanted just to thank you very much for joining me. I hope you found the webinar useful. We have started to consider how marketing is transitioning over the next 12 months. I think in many ways it's been expedited given COVID and the experiences that we've had over the last few years. We've started to answer some of the questions faced by a small business owner. So how do I find new clients? What kind of content can I share? And hopefully a lot more along the way, time-saving tips along the way as well. Don't forget to implement your marketing a little and often, and try and think about what's achievable for you to do when you're at your busiest. So when your business is going really well, you're at full capacity, how much marketing can you realistically achieve? Um, all that remains is for me to say thank you very much. Do please keep in touch. Let me know how you get on. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much for joining me today.